we are able to join together in those prayers. And it is something that I think is so essential for us and for those that we're thinking of. But don't forget the power that's just for you and me, for all of us who are in the midst of all of these difficult times in our lives. I want to share a message again with you tonight. And I had a great interactive thing, but since my other computer crashed, you're not going to get any of the awesome pictures that I worked so hard to prepare for you. Because I saw something, and I forget where I saw it in the week that passed, and I didn't realize that a road runner is a real thing. And one of the things I was going to do tonight was to actually show you a picture of what a real road runner looked like. I actually had no idea. I thought it was just the cartoon. So I find something online, whatever it was, and I realized the road runner is a real thing, not just a cartoon character, and I can't get it out of my head. I've been thinking about it this whole entire week. And then as I was thinking about a message for you, all I could do was think about the road runner. But it wasn't really just about the road runner, because the road runner had a friend. You remember who the friend was. The friend was Wile E. Coyote. And the thing that is interesting to me about, and I know you're acting a little strange, why am I sharing all of this? The idea of Wile E. Coyote was really significant because in all of those scenarios, he would run and run and run, and he'd run off the cliff. And as he was running off the cliff, he would still be running, so he was still up in the air. And it's only when he realized that he was over the cliff is when he would fall, right? I had enough time to find one picture. This is it. So as he was running, he was in the air. But when he stopped running, he recognized that nothing was holding up. He had no foundation, and he would fall right down to the ground. Rabbi David Wolpe is somebody who shared a teaching years and years and years ago about Wile E. Coyote and this idea of having no foundation. And Rabbi Wolpe said that perhaps we run so quickly because we are afraid of falling. Is there a foundation under our feet? Have we built our foundation with the bricks of human love, of learning, and of wisdom? Or is the race so swift because the goal grows ever less certain? So the road runner got me to Wile E. Coyote. That got me to, oh, thank you very much, Chip. I see that somebody's posting a Wikipedia article about the road runner. All of these things lead me not just to the cartoons, but to think about not having a foundation. And there have been times in my life, to be sure, where if I didn't feel like I had a foundation, I think I would be feeling like it was a free fall, that I would just be shooting right down that cliff, that I would have nothing to support me. And I've had my fair share of challenges, to be sure, and so have you. So my question really is, what are you building in your foundation? Rabbi Wolpe talked about bricks of human love and learning and wisdom. And I think we have lots of things that could be into this foundation. But I think we are really taught, we're really trained to keep running as fast as we can, as far as we can, so that we achieve and so that we advance. But when there's a crisis, when there is something like this pandemic, when people who are close to us are hurting, what's the foundation under our feet? What's it built out of? What are those bricks going to be created from so we do not feel like Wile E. Coyote? Now, the rabbinical school training that's part of my head say you should stand on Torah. Cool. I agree. I think that sounds great. All the world is sustained by Torah. Torah, prayer, acts of love and kindness. Absolutely. And no, there has to be more. And I know a lot of our folks in this community and well beyond our community don't think that the only part of our foundations is Torah. In fact, I would say that for a lot of folks, it's a very small brick if it's there at all. I'll come back to that. Maybe not everybody has a chance to really experience and see how Torah, our scripture, our people's memories and truths, how they haven't seen it so up close and personal that it's actually relevant. Or maybe we have been trained again to treat Torah so literally that it seems out of touch and out of date. It feels like Torah and values from Judaism are far from our lives. But there are other things that are part of my foundation. It's not just Jewish tradition. Part of my foundation is my loved ones, my wife, my kids, my dearest of friends, and a foundation that's built with Torah and community and ethics and yes, even God. But again, it's not just those things. I think there's hope. I think that there's love. I do think that there's, I hope, wisdom in all of those bricks. I don't think our foundations have any one major brick and that's it. It's a delicate equation of lots of different pieces. And don't forget, we actually stand on a foundation. It's not just there to look at. It actually holds us up. We're standing on it. It supports us. A really good foundation is going to sustain us even when the whole earth around us is feeling like it's cracking and when it's shaking. That foundation, that base, holds us up. So what holds you up? If you have an idea of what actually holds you up, put it into the chat. Let's share it. What is foundational to you? Is it family? Is it ancestors? Your loved ones? Is it community? Whatever it might be, and these are important things to us, the question that I have isn't just how to identify the bricks in our foundation, but what does Judaism actually have to offer? What does Torah or God or synagogue or our Jewish values, what does it have to offer to us in building a foundation? For me, just me, I'm going to share with you what's foundational. What's foundational for me is that we are all connected, that we are interdependent. And you've heard me say that before, but this virus only proves the point that we have so many more connections than we ever could have imagined. And I think we are created in God's image, which makes us so interdependent that we are connected to one another. We also know from our tradition is that we've hurt in the past. We've experienced pain. We know what it's like to be a slave. And so we have to watch out for the stranger. Don't stand idly by, because part of Jewish memory in my foundation is that we've hurt together. We've experienced pain together. And because we know what that feels like, we have to be mindful and careful about others. Another brick in my foundation is that Judaism is not a spectator sport. No one is supposed to come with empty hands. We all bring gifts. And I think you folks have incredible gifts. To learn, to share, to teach, gifts of the heart, gifts of the hand, whatever those gifts are, we all bring those gifts to the table. Another brick in my foundation is that our Torah tells us is that the poor and the widow and the orphan and the stranger and the Levite all experience vulnerability in the Torah. And for our day and age, they are the symbolic exemplars of people who need to be supported and cared for. And so it's not just the Levite or the stranger. there are still vulnerable people among us. And so one of those bricks is that we respond. We don't turn away. Another brick is that God has our backs. Now, I don't think that means that God's going to take away all of the hardship, but I believe, and I share with you as often as I can, that God has given us these reservoirs of strength and hope more than we could possibly imagine. And all we need to do is find a way to tap into it. Just as God has been there for others in their vulnerable times, whether it's Adam and Eve, or Moses, or Abraham and Sarah, whomever it is, I think God can support us and carry us. And I think when we have it wrong, when we do something and miss the mark, we have an opportunity to learn. And in Jewish tradition, that's teshuvah. That's an ability to make change in ourselves and with others. Another brick is that the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. And in Deuteronomy, it says, you must not be indifferent. Don't disappear. You can't be indifferent. I have one more brick, and I can keep going on and on and on. But another brick comes from the rabbis. We know of this famous quote from Hillel, who said, if I'm not for myself, who am I? We have to take care of ourselves, especially when there's a risk out like what's happening in our world. But then he says, if I'm only for myself, what am I? And the most important thing about that phrase is that if I am only for myself, if I don't feel responsibility for others, I become a what? I am no longer a who, I'm a what. If I'm not for myself, who am I? If I am only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? Which resonates back to what my parents would say. What are you waiting for? Get off of your tuchus. Sorry, do we know what that word means? Don't put the translation in the chat. So we have to get up off of the tuchus, off of our couch, off of whatever is holding us back, and show up. Show up. Take care of each other. Don't be indifferent. So how do we strengthen our foundations during difficult days? Call the people. Thank you, David. Call the people that you haven't seen in a while. How do we strengthen our foundation in difficult days? Make some tzedakah. Volunteer. Pray. Meditate. Go for a safe walk. And how can your Jewish community support you? How can Congregation Har Hashem or any synagogue out there support you in building and rebuilding our foundations? Without it, it really is like the cartoon's free fall. So can we spend a little bit of time and build foundations filled with bricks of love and learning and wisdom? Can we fill them up with love and with hope? How are you going to do that? And how can we help you? And that's a real question. It might not be answerable in the chat, but if you really want to work on your foundations, and if you think you can help me with mine, then let's talk. Let's share. Let's show up together. Set an appointment with us if we can be helpful to you, not just what to read or what to learn, but how to be good builders and maybe even to help our neighbors. This is a crazy world. It's easy to feel like we're falling off a cliff and there's nothing to support us. But I don't think it's true. I don't think it's true. And just because our building is closed and it's going to stay closed for a while, that doesn't mean that this congregation is. We have a lot to offer. in meaningful and safe ways so that we can do a lot of building together. All right, friends.